This is Beyond a Reasonable Doubt with your hosts, Mark Garrigus and Gary Smith.
Wow. Backed by popular demand, AK and her story. By the way, what is in that glass?
Water.
Yeah. Okay. I have a question for you. Did you watch my other podcast, Two Angry Men? Gary, do you have a little of the snippet of that? Because I'm going to lead into something, because we did AK was here last time when Gary was horizontal. Gary, I believe, is now vertical. At least that's what he's claiming. AK, you've seen evidence of this?
I have.
Okay. There you go. By the way,
I think Blake Lively and Taylor Swift and Ryan Reynolds want to get deposed and testify?
You describe what's really going on here. I think that there was, when you say a love, there was a very flirtatious relationship. And I think Ryan Reynolds inserted himself here and said, I'm going to take this guy down. I think that that's kind of what has evolved down to this. I think, and you're absolutely right, they are not going to let her. Blake Lively.
No way. No way. Because it's career ending if you have to go through all this stuff on the stand. I mean, right now, I think Blake Lively thought, I'm going to file this thing. New York Times is going to write this story and we're going to win the PR battle. And I think that's what they expected to do. I don't know that they expected him to come out and do what he did, but I don't think that look, Justin Baldoni is winning this right now.
Very interesting. By the way, that podcast is named Two Angry Men. Apparently the TMZ crew named it Two Angry Men.
Sorry, guys.
They could have. It's also sponsored by Grecian Formula 14. You can see the before and the after, but that's all. But AK.
Yeah.
Bring us up to speed. I've got it because there is a twist and a turn on this litigation. Because
obsessed.
I know you are. So since last week, there was a court appearance on Monday of this week in the Southern District. Go.
Yes. So Blake Lively's team was asking for a gag order, which is the stupidest thing they could ever ask for. Excuse me. Blake Lively's team. Yeah. So the dumbest thing they could ever ask for.
Once again, there's water in that glass.
Water, completely water in the glass. Yeah. But it's so hilarious that they were asking for a gag order because they are the ones that started this entire PR disaster on their end. So they asked the court to impose a gag order against our favorite person in the entire world. Excuse me, Brian Friedman. And the court said no. The court said absolutely not. There's not going to be a gag order, but somehow.
What actually I think happened is the judge had come out, and if you look at the transcript, it says something to the effect that he was not going to adopt or basically order what the rules of professional conduct is. I mean, it's basically like saying to your litigants or to somebody who's in front of you, I'm ordering you to obey the law. I mean, you could say obey all laws as a condition of probation or something, but it's really kind of a hypothetical here to order lawyers to comply with the rules of professional conduct, number one. But number two, most state bars are regulated by their Supreme Court of that state, who has the only authority to regulate lawyers. It isn't dispersed to everybody else.
Right. But the problem is that Brian Friedman is not barred in New York. And so the New York bar doesn't cover him. So when the judge was saying, why can't we just use the New York bar rules against Brian Friedman? The problem was that he's not barred in New York, so the professional rules of conduct don't apply necessarily to Brian Friedman, but it doesn't matter because, yes, exactly. If you are a lawyer, you abide by the rules, you abide by the general rules of conduct, and obviously you're going to do what you should do. So, yeah.
And by the way, as you kind of nailed it, the height of hypocrisy of planting a story in the New York Times, doing a cut and paste action of the texts and everything else, allegedly, hypothetically, right? And trying to preemptively destroy somebody, because that was the whole problem, under this guise of, breaking news, so to speak. And then when you get called out on it, when there is pushback, when Baldoni doesn't go meekly into the night and then comes back and pushes at you, be careful what you wish for, because all of a sudden that pendulum swing was so quick you would have gotten whiplash.
No, it's so great. And there's so many things that highlight the problems with this entire prosecution of Justin Baldoni in what just happened in court, because they are doubling down on the fact that they believe that because they are women, because they are feminists, that you shouldn't prosecute them.
Prosecute, by the way, for those who think we don't know what we're talking about, when you're in a civil case, you're still the plaintiff. And by the way, in a criminal case, the prosecution is the plaintiff. So when you say prosecute a case, that just means who's bringing the case. You prosecute the case, whether the plaintiff is, I love it when they say, I represent the people. And my response is always, so do I. I do them one at a time. You do them one at a time. But they are prosecuting because they are the plaintiff.
And so there are multiple defendants. There are multiple plaintiffs in the case. But on the side of Blake Lively, there is a PR company that, I'm sorry, at the moment, I don't exactly have the name of the PR company. But the PR company on Blake Lively's side said, we want to be dismissed as a defendant in Justin Baldoni's lawsuit because we are a female-owned company and we believe that we should not be a part of this, which just highlights the hypocrisy in this case. You think that because you are female-owned, you should not be involved in this?
You get gender immunity. It's a wonderful thing.
It was insane. That when I went rage blind when I was watching when I was watching everything going down in court, when I was watching the live stream, because unfortunately I wasn't there and I didn't have an actual view of it. But when I was watching the live tweet of what was going on, I went rage blind and I can't even believe that this is happening right now. How did he just say that? It's their whole theory. The whole Blake Lively theory is, I'm a woman, how dare this man? And that's it. How dare this man? And that is the entire theory of prosecution against Justin Baldoni. I am a woman, how dare this man?
Well, by the way, Gary, do you have the one, there was one text, I believe, that is now caught a little bit of traction where she's telling Baldoni something about a particular scene and talking about how flirty and yummy.
Oh, it's the best. It's the best. It's the best.
The text is almost, here we go. Read it in the way that I hear it, please.
Should I read it or should Barry read it?
Yeah, no, I think it's better coming from you. I'm going to be gender specific.
I can send you my pass at the roof of just read with you when we get together next week. Let me know what you prefer. If you knew me in person longer, you'd have a sense of how flirty and yummy the ball busting would play. It's my love language, spicy and playfully bold, never with teeth. And him serving it back to her is just as important. You don't usually see both the man and the woman with such agency and humor. Anyway, I can act it out for you next week to make sure it comes through. Or I can send now. Let me know what you prefer.
But that's pretty good. You do Gary, what do you think? Wasn't that pretty good?
That was a pretty solid lively, if I do say so myself, especially with all that water. I mean,
I don't have a beanie on, but yeah, my water definitely helps.
Then, so you've got that aspect. Now, what has happened since Monday's court, when they did not get what they want, and both sides stipulated that they'll abide by the rules of professional conduct.
Oh, okay. I guess we'll abide by the rules of professional conduct.
Stipulate. The judge had said on the record, he says, when I came out here, I wasn't even going to order that, but since you guys
I said reluctantly.
Yeah. Then, for some reason, the Lively team, by the way, if I'm always loath to criticize people in real time, other lawyers, because I don't think I know enough. But this is a case where I've watched and I've been bemused by it. They filed a petition in the state of Texas, and this petition was aimed at a guy by the name of Jed Wallace. And Jed Wallace is apparently a crisis manager. I don't know. Maybe I do and I've just forgotten, but I don't think I know him. Jed Wallace, then, talk about a jujitsu move. They filed a petition because they had no connection in this action to the state of Texas. So they did they thought they were being the usual big firm, clever lawyers. So we're going to go file this petition in Texas and we'll get jurisdiction over him and we'll get him to do a deposition. And when we get him to do the deposition, I can just see these guys sitting around a conference room table on the 45th floor thinking this was so clever. We'll get him. We'll get him to admit that he'd been in New York on such and such a date, and then this will give us jurisdiction and blah, blah, blah. So they do that. Well, Jed Wallace apparently knows a little bit more than the big firm lawyers. He goes and hires another lawyer I don't know except by reputation, who is a First Amendment aficionado. And this guy files a federal lawsuit.
Oh, good.
I know.
It's so good.
Filed a federal lawsuit against them in his hometown court in Texas against Lively. I mean, if I'm Blake Lively's team, I'm sitting there, and when I say team, not the law firm, because they can this Frankenstein, but the team is probably saying, "What in the hell is going on here? What are you guys doing?" And then it gets even worse, because I showed that clip. I didn't show it. Gary did. The inimitable GPS showed the clip of that podcast. So that podcast was Harvey and I dropping on Tuesday, right? Or on Wednesday of this week. I forget the date. We recorded Tuesday, I think. And we talked about the fact that, by the way, first of all, it will, both of our opinions will never go to trial. Second of all, can you imagine Blake Lively sitting for a depo? But even more hilarious is, can you imagine Taylor
Swift?
Right. And we said, oh, yeah, there you go. Well, I'm told, I won't say by who, but I am told within hours of the podcast where we're speculating whether Taylor Swift is going to sit, what is she doing?
Absolutely just ravaging.
It became Blake who? Super Bowl? No, thanks. You're
into the Super Bowl suite. Nope, not happening.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, I be careful. We should, the title of this episode, Gary's always so good with the titles. I'm going to give him a suggestion. Is be careful what you wish for, because this thing has been bungled and bangled like you can't believe from the get-go. What was the point of that New York Times article? Did we think it was still 2020, 5 years later, and that you could just cancel somebody and that was it? They weren't going to find back. I mean, that's all I can think of.
Yeah. No, absolutely. That's what's happening right now, is that everybody still thinks that it's #MeToo, but it's not. It's hashtag wait, what? I mean, it's wait, hold on. Hashtag hold on.
By the way, I used to say, and I was very upfront, I never understood why Johnny Depp took his case against Amber Heard to trial. Ultimately, at the end of the day, he won the PR war, but he had to go through a trial, and it was expensive, and it was a nightmare. In this case, take Johnny Depp's win, which took, a year and a half or whatever, and people were lionizing the lawyers involved. But in this case, I mean, it wasn't 18 months, and it wasn't 18 weeks. This was like 18-day turnaround.
This is the best. I'm telling you, Brian Friedman is my hero. Mark Garagos is my number one absolute favorite attorney. Brian Friedman is my number two absolute favorite attorney. Alex Kazarian is my number three favorite attorney. But I mean, this is the best thing that I have ever seen anybody do in the shortest amount of time. It is amazing.
The pendulum swing is just
it is genius. It is the best thing I've ever seen.
Well, Alex, we're going to cut it this short because I pulled you out of what is it, Galentine's Day?
Galentine's, yeah.
Okay, so happy Valentine's Day to all the gals who are watching, and I won't limit it to them. And Gary, thank you. I'm glad you're back amongst the living, and we will see you on screen next weekend.
Or maybe, yes, we love
Gary, maybe a midweek. What do you think, Gary?
I think that RIP my Twitter account because, either it's going to happen or it's not, and I'm going to hear about it. But I wish you guys both the best. Alex, thank you for joining us on the heels of a second Galentine's weekend. And I hope everyone enjoys the game today as you listen, tomorrow as we record. But hope everyone enjoys the game.
You got it. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to Reasonable Doubt. Subscribe on YouTube at youtube.com/Reasonable Doubt Podcast.